What's up everybody, Nameless Co here today, and we've got my 1993 Mitsubishi Delica behind me, and I'm going to be giving you guys an overall review on why the L300 Mitsubishi Delica is the best and most capable recreational van of the 90s. So without further ado, let's get into this, and I'm going to give you guys some details on why that is. Topic number one on why the Mitsubishi Delica is the best and most capable van of the 90s. We're going to talk about styling. Now, my L300 is a Chamonix model, so as you can see, we've got these beautiful graphics along the side here. They were very eccentric with their styling, and a lot of the other L300s came with some pretty spectacular graphics as well. Mine, however, I think is the coolest graphics on all the L300 Delicas, but obviously that's kind of biased because it is my van. But taking you guys to the interior, we've got these pretty cool seats. Now, I steam cleaned mine, but you can see there's light blue with some gray and some darker colors, and then obviously that Chamonix logo right there. And then we're gonna take you guys around to the carpets and show you guys what those look like. Also steam clean these as well. They're pretty dirty when I got them, but as you guys can see, that checkered board pattern is pretty cool, and at the price point you can't really beat something that is as stylish as this van. One more thing to add to the styling list is this pretty cool Mars Rover-esque bumper that we've got on the front, and then obviously these two pretty prominent fog lights that are yellow and actually shine pretty bright. Now, mine says Mitsubishi on the front, but some of the other L300 models will say Chamonix and some other things as well. And then obviously you've got the Delica Star Wagon right here, the special whatever that is gear for 4x4, and I think it said some more things below, but mine kind of tore off. I mean, that's kind of an issue with these vans from the 90s, is they have seen a lot of wear, especially coming from Japan, where it is an island and it's surrounded by sea, salt, water, all that bad stuff. So that's the styling. One of my favorite things about the Mitsubishi Delica is how capable it is off-road. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys and say that I've taken it on some pretty gnarly things, because quite frankly, I've only taken it on some minorly steep hill climbs that I actually did in two-wheel drive. Now, because it's a four-wheel drive model and it has a manual transfer case and it's a 5-speed manual, first and second gear are going to be the best gears for you when you're off-roading. And because the Chamonix as well, it has a locking diff and a limited slip differential. Now, I've actually never taken it off-road in four-wheel drive, but just in the two-wheel drive alone, with not even airing down, this thing was able to grip up and rip up some pretty loose hill climbs without any problems really at all. Piggybacking off of the capability aspect of this van, and one of the reasons why it's so good off-road is because it has the 4D56 turbo diesel, which is the 2.5 liter Mitsubishi diesel motor that came in a lot of SUVs and trucks and vans from the 90s and even 80s as well. Now, I did a pretty big overhaul on mine, but when I first bought it, it was leaking a lot of oil and the batteries were toast and the radiator was cracked, and it still performed about 17 or 18 hours all the way back from British Columbia. So if you're a novice mechanic or even just a novice car guy or car woman in general, the Mitsubishi Delica is never gonna fail you. Now, because mine's a winter model, it has two batteries, which is an essential item to have when you're working with diesels. And for all you guys that live in colder areas, you know that when you're cold starting a diesel or even a car in general, having those extra cold cranking amps is going to be key, especially if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you don't have access to another vehicle that can help jumpstart your diesel and whatnot. And because diesels use glow plugs, you also got to make sure that your glow plug relay and system is up to date, or that's going to fail you and you won't be able to start it. When I happened to run into a fellow Delica in my area, we were both moving the vans together, and when he started his, it kind of stumbled at idle and it had a pretty hard start considering it was cold and it hadn't been driven for a couple of hours. And I think one of the reasons why that was is because he didn't have the dual battery setup. Now, it could have been a glow plug issue or a relay issue, but overall the dual battery setup is never gonna fail you. Taking you guys inside of my Delica van, I've got a pretty comfortable REI cot that I purchased for about $180. Now, what I love about this setup is when I'm camping and everything, it works out perfect. But when I need to move something and having this high roof option, I'm able to basically fold up the cot in less than a minute and stow it inside my garage or inside my home. And that makes it basically, I haven't measured, but I want to say 30 or 40 square feet of space that I can pretty much fill up to the hilt. Now, one thing that's pretty common on these vans are adjustable rear air shocks. Now, you can pretty much pump them up or take air out of them if you're carrying heavier loads. Now, these vans you can tow with, but it's not recommended. I have heard of people towing things, but in terms of like hauling and like the overall payload of the van, I'd say it's pretty high. Other than that, I've got my sleeping bag, I've got some chairs, I've got some other toolkits, some towels and whatnot, and this is honestly like enough for me, and it's a great weekender van. Now, I don't know if I would live out of this setup full time, but I could definitely probably go a month in this setup with my cooler and my spare oil and my belts and whatnot. And overall, it's a pretty cost-efficient setup that I think most Delicas or most van people should either use or maybe try out if it's something that you're interested in. Oftentimes you'll see a lot of people go really overboard with their weekend vans. Now, if you're a weekend warrior like I am, a cot and a cooler is pretty much all you need, and quite frankly, it's the most cost-efficient setup that you're gonna ever want or need in your van just for those weekend trips to the beach or to the mountains. Comparing the Mitsubishi Delica to the other Japanese vans of the 90s, we've got the Mazda, Nissan, Bongo / Friend D, and the Toyota Hiace. Now, if you're looking for something that's going to be pretty much the best van you can get, you're going to want to go with the Hiace. Now, I am a Mitsubishi guy, but considering I bought my Delica for $4,000, and you can also get a Delica in that range as well if you're willing to wait and look on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist in North America, the Toyota Hiace is going to be the best build quality overall. And that's mainly because it is a Toyota. However, that's going to be a much larger cost added on top of the $4,000 or $5,000 or $0 to $10,000 range that a Delica and the Nissans and the Mazdas are going to come at. But if you're looking for a four-wheel drive model, expect to pay at least another $4 or $5 grand on top of what you're already paying for a Hiace. Now, that's why I personally do think the Delica is the best bang for your buck when it comes to a very capable recreational van from the 90s that is JDM. Now, comparing it to one of the most common vans that we see in Northern California and just the West Coast in general is the Vanigan Westphalia from Volkswagen. Now, those are going to come with a much added price bonus that if you're willing to pay it, it might be worth it, but I do think they're a little bit taxed, especially since COVID, and a lot of people are now starting to buy vans, and that's just kind of raising the price of those because they are readily available and mechanics are also readily available. So if you're not one to want to work on your vehicle, a Delica might not be for you unless you live in Vancouver area where there are lots of Delica mechanics, or California, which there are also lots of Delica mechanics. However, when it comes to parts and finding things for Delicas, it's not that hard. People make it seem like it's a lot harder than it is, but quite frankly, there are parts warehouses all over the world that will ship you things, and Delicas are very, very cheap to maintain in comparison to its counterpart or other counterparts like the Hiace or the Vanigan or even the Eurovan or even the L300 Delica if you want to even go that far. Last but not least, it's not the wrong side, it's the right side. Now, because it's a right-hand drive vehicle and all over the forums and online, people are talking about it's very difficult and it's hard to get used to, and honestly, it's not that difficult and it's not that hard to get used to. I work valet and I've valeted cars that are right-hand drive, and I've talked to the people that own the right-hand drive cars, and a lot of times, some of those vehicles and recreational cars are the first cars they've ever purchased. And we live in North America where none of the countries are right-hand drive based. So those vehicles are going to be imported, and most of the vehicles that are imported to the US are going to be automatics. Now, because mine is a manual, there was a bit more of a learning curve getting used to shifting with my left hand versus my right hand, but after about 30 or 45 minutes of driving, that went to the wayside, and I pretty much wasn't thinking twice about shifting with my left versus my right. If you guys have any questions about what it's like to drive on the right side of the right side of the car, not the road, because you are driving on the right side of the road, I actually think it's better in some cases. Now, where we live, it's a pretty small town, and the roads are very narrow, and by having the steering wheel on this side of the car, you're able to really get super close to the right if people are driving fast towards you, and you're able to get out of the way quicker because you're on the right side. And when it comes to parallel parking and just parking in general, you pretty much can't miss a beat when you're on this side of the car. Thank you guys for making it to the end of today's video. We hope this video helped you decide on what 90s Japanese van you're looking to buy. Now, because mine is side piped, I'm gonna give you guys a little pull, and you really just can't beat that turbo diesel music. So let's go.